Hey guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. So today I'm going to mod my AtGames Legends with the new Pixelcade Pulse arcade lighting system. And to make this easier, I've got a nice little mounting template for you here. So this tells you exactly where to drill the holes and what hole size. So you will need like a screw gun to drill the holes. And then for the 7-segment display, this is a rectangle hole cutout. So multi-tool like that will do the trick, or jigsaw, but this will probably be easier to get into that space. So here's all the parts we're going to need for this mod. We've got first our Pixelcade 45 LED speaker grills. We got 2 of those guys. Pixelcade 8x8 effects matrix, one of these guys. 7-segment retro display, one of these guys. You're going to need some extender cables. This you can get on Amazon. This is a Cobb LED strip. This one's really nice. There's a link to it. Of course, you need a Pixelcade version 2 board that comes with a Pixel cable. And then you're going to need a pretty beefy 5-volt power supply. This one happens to be 5 volts, 60 amps. Add link to that. And we've got some hardware over here just to screw stuff in. And then lastly, you'll need some hookup wire to wire the common ground, and I'll talk about that more. So those are all the parts you'll need for this mod. Here's our ALU pre-mod. So basically we're going to do our modifications right in this area. And so first thing we need to do is take off these 2 speaker grills. And you can just toss these speaker grills. We're not going to need them after this mod. All right, so now we just want to tape down this mounting template. So just kind of line it up. Let's get some tape ready here. And just kind of line it up here. I would center the speaker grills with the 2 circles. That's kind of your guide. Horizontally, it should be, it's almost the same width, so you don't need to worry about that. So now when you mount this template, I would actually mount it as high as you can go, because you're going to drill 2 holes right here, and you want that clearing your speaker. Now when you mount this guy, make sure right here you're not seeing any area of the actual speaker. So that means you have this high enough to where you drill, it's not going to go into your speaker housing. So just do a quick visual check of that so it looks like this before you drill. The other thing you may want to do is when you're drilling, it's going to be a little messy. So I would just tape up your ports down here. If you've got an ALU 1.1 like I do, it just makes your cleanup a little bit easier. So we've got the small holes. Now what I'll do is drill pilot holes for the big holes. All right, now let's drill those bigger holes. This is too wide to go on the side, so I'll need to figure out a different way to do that. All right, so we got all of our holes drilled. I think some of these we need to make a little bit bigger, but that's okay. We can take this off and then see how we did. All right, clean this up a little bit. Okay, and I'll show you here. Basically, what we're going to need to do is fit these little connectors through the holes. And, oh, okay, that actually worked. So that one's okay. That one, I'll make that. Oh, now it's stuck. Get it from the other side. So make that one just a little bit bigger. And then basically the same thing on these. Let's see if these are enough. Yeah, I think those are actually okay. Let's see. Yeah, so as long as it's flush, that means our holes are big enough, and then I think we're good. So we can make them just a little bit bigger just to be on the safe side. But I think in general, we're okay. So let's grab our drill. All right, well, it turns out I didn't have a smaller multi-tool, so I'm going to try a little hack and just drill a hole here and see if we can just do this manually. Well, it kind of worked. All right, now if this will go in flush, then you're good to go. I think we're okay. All right, so let's go ahead and mount everything now that we got our holes drilled. Let's start with the speaker grill. You can go ahead and take the masking tape off because you need to get to the holes and screw it in, so it'll be easier with this off. All right, so the way this works is you want to just start from the top, take these two and just push them through the holes, and then we'll just line them up and screw them in. You might have to reach over on the other side just to kind of get the cables. Once you've got that, and you want to just make sure the holes can line up. And as long as they can line up, you're good to go. Let's see a little bit of spare wood there. Let's just clean that up. Okay, so let's give this a shot. And if it doesn't, the holes don't line up, that means that your holes that you made are not quite large enough. So you have to just enlarge them a little bit. But as long as the holes line up here, you're good. Looks good. So one little side note, if you look kind of here, you'll notice that the speaker cone is not quite totally aligned to the circle here, and that's totally okay because we had to move it just a slightly higher because we didn't want to drill into the actual speaker housing. So that's totally fine and normal. All right, so let's keep going. Let's do the 8x8 matrix. This one has 3 wires, so just push these through on each hole there. We're going to use the middle hole, the middle 5 volts and ground to inject some power into our strip. I'll explain what that means later. So the same thing here. Let's line up the holes. Okay, these ones we'll need to get on the other side. We'll do that in a second. Let's see if we can find the hole here. There we go. Looks good. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's do the last speaker grill and then we'll do our 7 segment. Now, okay, this is important. So you want to make sure you don't do this upside down. So the right way to do it is the cable is going to be on the left side like this, not the other way. That would be putting it upside down. So just remember the cable goes right there on the left side. Okay, we'll pop that in there. Okay. All right, so here's the back. So let's go ahead and for the effects matrix, we just screw these guys down with some hex nuts. Okay, so I just got a little gaffer's tape here, so let's just cover up those gaps so we don't see them. For the 8x8 effects matrices, I made these little templates you can mount on the side just to make it a little bit easier. So you just mount it on here, and then this tells you where to draw. For the other side, just take the same template you just used and just flip it over and then tape it down again. Show you how I have the LED strips connected. So the first strip starts here on the right side. So here is the LED strip right here. This is going into the back. We do all the wiring in the back. And so it starts there and then it ends over here. And then what I did was I just drilled a hole over here. So the strip comes down here and then we go down here. I just covered up with some tape and then it goes into the hole and then we connect it on the back. And then also here's the separate strip that's going on this side. So that's also starting in that hole, goes all the way around here and then goes into the other hole over there. And then the third strip here again connects from the back, starts from the back and then ends up down here. And then because this is actually the last device in the chain, we can get away with just cutting it off right there so we don't have to worry about hiding this wire. But again, that's only because that's the last device in the chain. So just make sure you wire it up that way so it's the last device. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to start with this end here, which is the female end, and then you notice there's extra 2 wires for power. That we're going to start at the top, and then we're going to end up with the end here, which is the male end. Okay, so when you're peeling off this blue part, just be really careful that you don't peel off down to here. Right? So you want to leave the white part on because that's basically the double-sided tape. And so I made this mistake a couple times, so just be careful to only peel off the blue part and leave the white part on. So let's just go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so just peel it off like this. Notice we have the white part here. If you peel it off and you see that you see copper strips, then you know you've went too far. So we'll do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to, again, remember I want to start from the female end with these 2 extra wires. And I really like these LED strips. They're called Cobb. I forget what Cobb stands for, but they've got, you know, this built-in diffuser, so you don't see the circuitry. So it's really nice. You don't have to diffuse them because they're already diffused for you. All right, that looks looks like the right spot right there. Okay. All right, so let's start to connect everything. It's a little tight quarter, so it's a little hard to see. So let me just show you the board here. There is a label that says 7 segment, which is this one right here. It's right next to the blue connector. So we're going to take our 7 segment and just plug it in to that connector. And these are, I'll just show you on this board, these are notched, so they only go in one way. So no chance to mess up, just like that. So let's go ahead and plug that in. And then also, we need to plug in our Pixelcade pulse cable, which is here. And then this cable goes into the blue connector, just like, again, only goes in one way, just like so. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. Plug it into the blue connector up there. Now, before we do that, this is really important. You have to have a common ground because we're using an external power supply. So the ground, which is this white wire, needs to go to the black connector, the ground of that power supply. So before I plug this in, let's go ahead and wire up a ground cable. I'm just going to take my wire stripper, strip a little bit there, and then we can just take a wire nut. You could solder, but you know, this is faster. Let's just take one of these guys. And let's just use this. Twist it down. Okay, got a decent connection. So then let's go ahead and plug this in. Again, we're going to plug this into the blue connector on the back of the Pixelcade board. So you won't be able to see it, but trust me, that goes into the blue connector. And then this end here is what's going to plug into our Pixelcade pulse chain. So wire that up in a second. And then the other end of this is going to go to the negative terminal on our power supply. Okay, so we're going to inject power in this 8x8 matrix using these 2 wires here. And I'm going to do this one because it's on the inside. It'll be a little bit cleaner versus we'll probably inject power in one of the LED strips, but not both, because the LED strips are on the outside, whereas this is on the inside. It's just cleaner because everything's inside. So I'm just going to use these little wire nuts here. So here's our 5 volt 60 amp power supply. So notice how the AC wires are connected with the green, white, and black wires. Make sure you match those exactly. And here's how it looks with our Pixelcade pulse devices wired up. So we've got 3 different power injections happening, once in the center matrix, once on one of the LED strips, and then another one on one of the side LED matrices. Just space it out. You could probably honestly get away with 2, but I just did 3. And then most important, I didn't show it in this picture unfortunately, but we also have to make sure we wire the common ground from the Pixelcade V2 board into one of the negative wires, the minus volt wires on this power supply. Very important. Don't wire that common ground into the ground on the AC side. You have to do it in the middle part in the minus 5 volts basically. All right, so just a quick look at the back before I close everything up here. So there's our 5 volt 60 amp power supply. You can see how everything wired up there. Be really careful because this is live 120 volts. So you got this little plastic cover here. Here's our 5 volts out. We've got all of our Pixelcade pulse devices here wired up in series basically, and then remember you got your common ground coming in, going into the 5-volt power supply, common ground coming off the Pixelcade version 2 board right there. And I gotta get some better tape on this guy. Here's our Alexa that's just double taped in here. Got our power bricks on each side, so it's, you know, fairly clean. And then what I did was we're going to put the back on, and I just added some extender cables. So basically the extender cables are going to plug in to the back side of this. Then we got our Ethernet here just in case we need that, and that's how I took care of that. Okay, so that's basically it in terms of from the back now. So, you know, it's on the back, so no one's going to see the side, but I just had to drill, you know, one hole here, one hole here to fish the cables out, and then everything else is tucked inside, pretty clean. Now that you have everything installed physically, let's go ahead and install the Pixelcade Pulse software. So go ahead and go to the pixelcade.org website. Go to download, click on RCade/Legends Unchained. And we're just going to scroll down here, and we're going to get this command. Don't do the beta, it's production right now. So hit copy here. And this just tells you how to SSH in or remote connect into your RCade, but I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So let's go SSH root at rcade.local, and the password is retro, and we just simply paste in that command. So let's just edit paste, hit enter, and we'll just let this run. And just so you know what this is doing, this is installing the latest version of Pixelcade, which includes the software we need for Pixelcade Pulse. It's also installing this thing called DOF links, which is what we need for the in-game effects. And once it's done, we can just do a reboot. You can reboot it from your AtGames, but you can also, since we're here, just reboot from the command line. And then we'll wait for it to come back up. Now, while this is rebooting, highly recommend you get the Pixelcade mobile app, which we have now for both iOS and Android. So you can go here, just do a QR code scan, get the latest Pixelcade app. All right, so once your AtGames is booted back up, let's just go in our browser. You could also do this from the mobile app as well, which is actually a little easier, but you have a little bit more real estate if you do it from your desktop. So I'm gonna type in arcade.local:8080, hit enter. That'll take us to the Pixelcade companion web UI. And what we want to do is go into settings because we want to set up all those Pixelcade Pulse devices that we just installed. Now I've already done this, so you can see here all the different zones, but let me kind of explain how this works. So basically, and this is how I wired it in sequence. So the first zone was the center matrix, then the right speaker ring, then the left matrix, right strip, and so on. So let me hit edit zones and give you a feel for how this works. All right, so again, I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again, but you just go here, basically pick your zone, and then it's probably a little easier if I edit a zone since I've already done them. And so each zone has a range. So remember, this is like one long strip of LEDs basically. So this is basically saying, okay, the first zone is the center matrix, and it's taking up pixels 1 through 64. The second zone is a right speaker ring, which we know is 45 LEDs, so that's taking up 65 to 109 LEDs and so on. So you just keep going. The only tricky part is when you get to some of your LED strips, because some of them you may not be using, so there might be like a gap in between. And so you just edit that accordingly, and there's a way to test and kind of see what lights are turned on and so on. You'll get the hang of it. So that is the zones. Let's go ahead and save and exit. And you can check out, I've got some other videos on the widgets, but lots of new functionality here in terms of widgets. There's also a cool thing which does work on RCade right now. So you've installed it. When the RCade screensaver kicks in, if you have the screensaver configured in your RCade menu, it'll actually run this thing called Pixelcade Attract Mode, which is pretty nice. So you basically can drag and drop here. I can, add different widgets. Let's say I want to show sports. I want to show it for like a minute. You can do things like that. And so as your RCade goes into, as your AtGames Legends goes into screensaver mode, then what's called Pixelcade Attract Mode kicks in, and it just plays a slideshow of all this stuff. And again, very easy to drag and drop and rearrange the widgets here. So hope you like it. As always, love the feedback, and let me know how it all turns out.